Okay, so I only have a few slides to cover today, but feel free to kind of ask me questions as we go along, and I'll try to answer some of those. And again, at the end, we'll have time for questions at the end. So the topic for today is basically an introduction to some of the self-serve ad networks. Some of these are available with data in AdBeach right now. Some of them are not, but certainly probably all of them will be at some point. So I'm gonna kind of share with you what I know about some of these ad networks based on personal experience oftentimes, and then also just based on talking to a lot of people that I know that do this sort of thing and their experiences as well. And then finally just a little bit about direct site buys and some of the things to consider if you're going to end up doing direct site buys. All right, so the first network here that we're going to talk about is the Google Display Network. Now, some of you may have seen the post I did in the forum that talked about ad spend on these networks, and this is, to me, this is the best way to kind of understand how much traffic is available on these networks. And these, I don't have this data from any of these networks, but this is just kind of what I know based on people that I talk to and based on my personal experience, and then kind of looking at the data that we have in AdBeat and kind of figuring out based on some campaigns that I know what they spend, probably what the other campaigns are spending. So for Google, if you're showing up in the top 50 or so advertisers on Google Content Network or Google Display Network, you're definitely going to be spending somewhere upwards of $3,000 a day to have that many ads showing up, and then all the way up to probably 100,000 plus a day. And the only reason that I say that is Groupon really is what's leading that ad spend. I think they're spending probably 4 to 5 times as much as the next biggest advertiser. So they kind of skew that to the upper end. But anyway, the bottom line is here for Google Display Network, if you can get something running as an affiliate, there's huge amounts of traffic available. So that's one of the things that's great about the Google Display Network. The other thing is that it's high quality traffic and it's consistent traffic. What I mean by that is there's very little kind of variation day to day. There may be some natural, any campaign has natural variation in terms of conversions based on time of day or based on day of the week or even sort of day of the month. That kind of thing can have an influence. But for the most part, the Google Content Network traffic is pretty even and steady. So when you get a campaign going, it seems to kind of perform fairly steady once it's going, which is great. And what I mean by high quality traffic is just that the sites tend to be good sites. There's not a lot of junk sites in there, so some of the other ad networks will run impressions on some really terrible sites, maybe even like some adult sites or something like that. They'll sneak in some traffic that's going to be not very good quality in terms of will it convert or not. One of the things about whether traffic converts or not, it has to do with what site the ad is found on. Just because that aside from things like demographics of that site and is the site related to the offer and all that kind of stuff, if the site is a high trust site, meaning that people that are on that site view the site as a quality site, then the traffic tends to convert better off of that site no matter what. So Google tends to have a lot of sites like that in their network, and the quality is good across the board. The Google Display Network can be really easy to scale. You need some extra tools to do this properly. One of the tools that Google provides is the AdWords editor. They also have a really good online interface, so compared to some of these other networks, the Google interface is actually quite good in terms of just creating campaigns online. I'll tell you that the people that do a lot of Google AdWords traffic and Google Display Network traffic, they use the AdWords editor, or they use some combination of the AdWords editor and some other tools that they've developed, either custom tools or something that you can purchase, like Keyword Rockstar is one of these tools that helps you create campaigns quickly. Anyway, easy to scale. That kind of sums that up. It's partially because you can use these tools and they just have a good interface for you to work with. You can use banner ads. You can use rich media ads as well, or flash or animated banners. You can site target, you can URL target. This is different than a lot of networks. So Google has basically the best targeting capabilities of any ad network that's out there, where you can target down to the placement level. I'll say that this actually hasn't really been part of my strategy. I've played around with it quite a bit, but this has never been a strong part of my strategy on the Google Display Network, the hyper targeting with URL targets. There are other people that seem to like that method and do very well with it, and you can get some really great returns on your ad spend by doing that, because you can get on very specific pages that do very well. But it's not such a scalable method, and so I've tended to do more keyword-based campaigns is kind of what I've stuck with. But this is available to you with Google, and it's not available on other ad networks. There's also retargeting available with Google, which is actually pretty new to the Google Display Network, which allows you to target people who've already seen your ads or clicked on your ads, which can be a really high return on investment. This isn't something I actually have experience with, but it's available to you on Google. Some other ad networks have this as well. So it's something you'd want to take a look at, because the returns can be really good. Let's see. So now down to the bottom here, the bad things about the Google Display Network. The biggest bad things right now for affiliates are it's just very volatile. And what I mean by that is that you may get something running and it may get taken down within a few days, within a few weeks, within a few months. Or you may not be able to get something running at all. So there's a lot of problems with Google right now, and the biggest concern with Google is that when you have a problem with them, it can result in a permanent ban, which is really different than basically any other place that I know of to advertise online. Most places would just tell you they don't like what you're doing and ask you to change it, but Google decides to ban you completely from using their system. In terms of how do you deal with this or ways around this, a lot of affiliates have just decided they don't want to deal with Google, and they just have gone elsewhere and learned to buy traffic in other places, and that's certainly something you can do. Basically the way that I recommend you handle dealing with Google, first of all, is to look at what's actually running on Google and see what they're allowing, and I would use that to guide you by using AdBeat. And then there's some other things that we'll get into on another training call that are specific to Google and how to set up your Google account that may be helpful, but honestly it's hard to say how helpful the other recommendations that I have will be, just because Google is so unpredictable with affiliates lately. All right, so I think that wraps it up for now for Google. And the next network is the MSN Content Network. So this is the content network side of MSN Ad Center, and now it's essentially also wrapped into Yahoo as well. They kind of went through a merger, a partnership, I guess, a few months back, and used to be able to buy traffic through the Yahoo Content Network as well. But hold on just a second. I'm seeing some questions here. Let me answer a few of these questions before I go on. Can I talk about Keyword Rockstar? Keyword Rockstar lets you to create ad groups quickly for the Google Content Network. It lets you do keyword research quickly, and it lets you create banner ads quickly. And there's actually quite a few other things it does, but those are kind of the main things. It's good software for the Google Content Network. That's a paid software, so I don't know how much it's running right now, but I'm certain some of the people that are on the call or that will watch this call already have keyword Rockstar. And yeah, the Rockstar suite is the same thing. That's actually more than what keyword Rockstar initially was. This software first came out probably 2 years ago, and he's built onto it since then. So I'll talk about it a little bit more outside of this call, and I'll probably try to arrange for some sort of a discount for you guys if anybody wants to purchase it. It is a paid software, so it'll cost a little bit of money, but it's great software. So another question here about Google. I just got my account permanently banned by following an exact banner campaign from another affiliate. They disallowed mine but are running his with no issues. I don't know what to tell you on that. Like I said, I mean, I can't really predict what Google will do. I don't know why they would do that. There could be all sorts of reasons why that might happen. Depending on your account history or their account history, or who knows what you wrote in an ad, or I don't really know exactly. But I don't know. Feel free to provide more info in the forum or something, and maybe I can provide more input, but it's hard to predict what Google will do. All right, so MSN Content Network. Well, for the MSN Content Network, there's potential there for quite a bit of traffic, actually. Most people find it difficult to drive traffic through MSN Content, but I can tell you that you can do between, I would say the top 50 advertisers are doing between 500 and 5,000 a day, maybe even more than that. And I see a question here: without Google, can one really scale like you did? Yes, absolutely, you can scale like I did without Google. There are people out there right now spending far more than I was on Google with other advertising sources. So that's the answer to that. And like I'm mentioning right here, on the MSN Content Network alone, you could spend thousands of dollars a day, and you're going to get some ROI on that traffic if it's all set up right. So there's potential to make quite a bit of money even just on a smaller traffic network like MSN Content. This really isn't one of the ways to drive the most traffic. But a couple things about MSN Content Network. The network itself has high quality traffic. It tends to convert quite well. It's slanted towards a female demographic, so that's one of the things to consider. When you're advertising there. Offers that may have more of an appeal to a female demographic can tend to do well there. It's easier for affiliates. Usually you'll just get slapped. You're not going to get permanently banned. Maybe that's happened before, but I never really hear of anybody getting permanently banned from MSN Content Network. And in fact, I think it's pretty easy to just create a new account if that happens. Let's see, limited site targeting. That should actually, well, I guess that's kind of a positive and a negative. There are some ways to target by site with MSN Content Network, but it's definitely not as extensive as it is with Google. Now, some of the negatives for MSN Content, it can be hard to get traffic, and it's just a little bit tricky to get traffic, and I don't necessarily have all the answers for this. I can share with you one of the things that's worked well for me in the past on the MSN Content Network is doing single keyword ad groups. Now, if you talk to one of the MSN salespeople or whatever, the people that help you with your accounts, they'll tell you not to do that, and they'll tell you to group your keywords in different ways or whatever. But I found I got better results with single keyword ad groups, loading up tons of single keyword ad groups. So lots and lots of keywords, many tens of thousands of keywords, and most of those would never get any traffic, but some of them would get traffic, and they would get quite a bit of traffic. So that's one of the things I can recommend that you at least try and see what happens. One of the things about MSN that's a little bit different than Google is there's actually quite a bit that's different. One is that you can get a lot of traffic if you can bid higher, whereas with Google, say you're bidding say you're bidding 50 cents, you might get a certain amount of traffic, and then if you bid 75 cents, you'll get a lot more traffic, and then $1, you'll get a lot more traffic on top of that. With MSN, it can be like you don't get any traffic basically at all at 50 cents, and then all of a sudden maybe at 75 or 80 cents, you're getting quite a bit of traffic, and then again a lot more traffic if you can bid up to 90 cents. So the way that their algorithm works and how it selects what ads will show is different than Google, and it's a little harder to manage, to be honest. It can be tough to figure out what's going to happen when you make some changes, because things can change very quickly. It's text ads only, so it's not like a full display network like Google where you can do image ads and everything. However, it competes. The Ad Center Content Network competes for a lot of space that the MSN Display Network shows ads for. And so the MSN Display Network is basically a banner network that you have to do large advertising buys to run on this network. Probably, I think the minimum might be $10,000 for an IO, for an insertion order. So to even get to run on the network, you have to commit to a $10,000 ad spend. And these are the banner ads that you'll see. So if you go to msn.com, these are the banner ads that you'll see running on MSN. This is the MSN Display Network. And this is also where the MSN Content Network ads, these little text ads, will run depending on what the demand is for the display network traffic. So one of the kind of side effects of that, the shared ad space there, is that if there's a lot of ad buys on the display network, all of a sudden you can see your traffic from your MSN Content Network campaigns just completely kind of dry up out of nowhere. I mean, it can happen overnight. You may be spending $1,000 a day one day, and then the very next day you haven't changed anything at all, and maybe you're spending $100 a day. And this is actually, I don't have proof of this, but this is I'm pretty sure this is why this happens, because I've done quite a bit of just sort of checking back and forth whenever I see this happen, and it seems like this is happening because these display buys are coming in and they're basically taking the inventory over from time to time. So that can also be very difficult to deal with in terms of just the wide traffic swings. So I'm going to stop for just a second and take a look at some questions here. Let's see. With MSN content, do they place your ads on sites that have the theme of the keywords you bid? Yeah, that's basically the idea. So that can be one strategy for trying to get more traffic on MSN, would be going into AdBeat, seeing what sites that they have in their network, just by what's listed, say, for the top advertiser for the MSN network in AdBeat, looking at the top publishers for that advertiser, and you'll get a pretty big list of sites that those content network ads are running on. And you could create keyword groups based on those sites using something like the Google Keyword Tool and kind of approach it that way. How much traffic would you expect from a $10,000 ad buy? A lot of traffic. I don't know. I mean, that's generally CPM rates are going to be in the, I don't know, anywhere from $1.50 up to maybe $5 or more, depending on if you're buying premium inventory. So that means per 1,000 impressions, you're going to pay a couple bucks up to $5, maybe $10 for 1,000 impressions. So you can figure out what a $10,000 buy would get you from that. Let's see here. I'm about to launch a campaign on MSN. I'm not, guys. Some of these questions are about AdBeat and the data that you're seeing in AdBeat, and if they're detailed questions, I'm probably going to need you to ask me separately. Catch me on live chat maybe, or or send me a PM in the forum and ask me specifically so I can take a look and look at what you're seeing and then give you some better advice. It's hard for me to just kind of answer off the cuff. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on to Pulse 360 and Add Sonar. These I've listed together because they're very similar in terms of kind of the way they're laid out and potential for traffic and that sort of thing. I would say here that a top 50 advertiser is going to spend upwards of $1,000 a day, even to upwards of $15,000 a day for some of the larger advertisers on these networks. So there's significant traffic here. I mean, there's really quite a bit of traffic that's available. It's kind of interesting because it's different than Google. There's not that many sites in these networks. I mean, they basically range a couple hundred sites. I think less than 1,000 sites or so for each network that we're picking up, and I think we get probably most of the sites that these networks run on. So you're talking only a few hundred sites, but the thing about these networks is they're very high traffic websites. So they're well-known high traffic websites. The quality of traffic tends to be pretty good, meaning that it converts well, again, because it's coming from a lot of these big, well-known websites. These are the easiest networks to work on in terms of being an affiliate, and you'll see this if you look at the kinds of things that are running on these networks. There's basically no rules, and there may be some rules. This is maybe a little bit of an exaggeration, but you can do an awful lot of stuff. You can run an awful lot of things on Pulse 360 and Add Sonar that would not run elsewhere. And the reason I have that listed as a negative is that it's going to be hard to compete on these networks for the most part if you're not using some of the techniques that you're going to see running on these networks. And one of the bigger ones is these fake news sites that are kind of set up as landing pages. So just be aware that, I mean, there's a reason why there's so many of those sites showing up as landing pages. They work really well, and they allow people to bid much higher than a direct link to an offer or some other sort of landing page. So now I don't want you to. I also want to mention there are offers that you can run on these networks. I know people that have direct linked successfully on these networks to affiliate offers and made money, found profitable campaigns that way. So it's not that it's impossible. It's just that you're going to have to do a lot more digging and maybe be a little more creative with how you run things, or stick to maybe some very niche sites on these networks. So one of the things that's great about these networks is that they have very high traffic niche sites. So you may find a site like I don't know, ESPN.com or NASCAR.com or some site that's very targeted in terms of who is going to be on that site, but yet is also an extremely high traffic website, which is a pretty good combination because it can allow you to focus on that demographic or the type of person that's on that site and come up with a good way to target them with some sort of an affiliate offer, and you're not wasting your time because it's a pretty high traffic website. So that's one of the things that's good about these networks. It's easy to get traffic as long as you bid high, so there's no problem getting traffic, and the problem is going to be making it profitable. But sometimes when you're starting out, it can just be frustrating enough when you're not getting traffic. So on a network like MSN, for instance, sometimes if you don't have your ad group set up right or you're not hitting the right keywords, you're going to have trouble just getting traffic at all. So that can just be really frustrating when you're trying to just see something happen when you're first starting out. But here you'll get traffic for sure. If you bid high enough, you'll get traffic. But like I said, it's going to be hard to make it convert because it's very competitive on these traffic sources. Is Ad Sonar the easiest for starting out and getting your feet wet? I mean, I don't know if it's the easiest. Like I said, it's very competitive. You'll get the traffic though, and if you pick something that is similar to what's already working, you'll probably start out without losing just completely, you know, losing your shirt on your ad spend. So, you know, I don't know if it's easy in some ways, and that you don't have to worry about bans, you don't have to worry about getting the traffic, you know, but it's just pretty competitive. So you need everything, you know, working really well in order to do well on these traffic sources. Let's see, when I say bid high enough, what's my rule of thumb? You know, there's no, this is the thing, on these traffic sources, you're going to have to bid higher. That's not, you know, there's no, you know, I need to bid 25 cents because that's what's going to make me a profit. You're not going to get any traffic at 25 cents on these networks. So you basically need to find things to run that allow you to bid what is required to get traffic on these networks, which is generally going to be 50 cents and up per click. So you have to have a very high converting offer. You know, on something like Google, you may get clicks at you know, 10 cents a piece sometimes on the content network. You know, you may get clicks on MSN at much cheaper as well. Let's see. What do I mean by competitive? I mean that there is a lot of people bidding for the same traffic. So the bid prices will go up in that situation. And so you need to make sure that the offer you're promoting and where you're buying the traffic and the way you're promoting the offer is going to be, you know, what gets you the most money per click, so that you can pay the most money per click. So, all right, I think that's good for Pulse 360 and AdSonar. Guys, these are really easy to sign up for, and just kind of poke around and see what sites are available. So, you know, if you haven't done that, I encourage you to go do that and understand how their system is set up. You can see very, very easily how to set up a campaign by just following through the steps that they have. All right, so a couple more here. AdBlade and AdSide. These actually, I don't have experience with AdBlade, but I'm going to mention it here because I know that there's a lot of traffic there, and it's kind of similar to Pulse 360 or AdSonar. A lot of traffic, a lot of high traffic, high quality websites. It's a little bit different in that you buy the traffic that's basically run of network traffic, and then you optimize it after it's been running for a while. So, you know, these are self-serve networks in terms of you're able to upload your ads and manage your own bids and things like that. But you can't bid on individual sites. At least as far as much as I'm aware, you can't bid on individual sites like you can on some of the other networks. AdSide is kind of similar. What is run of network? Okay, good question. So run of network just means that the traffic is just coming from their entire network of sites. All right, you know, which means you're blind to where you're buying the traffic initially. Some of these are going to tell you where the traffic came from after you buy it, so you'll be able to run a report and you'll be able to see, you know, I got this many clicks from this site, this many clicks from this site. And if you use their pixel, what's called a conversion pixel, which is basically a little bit of code that runs on the landing page that you're sending traffic to, or that actually not on the landing page but on the conversion page. So once a conversion has happened, whatever that is, whether it's an opt-in to an email, or whether it's a purchase, or whether it's somebody, you know, completing a CPA offer that you're promoting on some network, you can place this little bit of pixel code on the page where that conversion happens, and it kind of basically sends a ping out that lets the network know that that conversion happened, and they can associate that conversion with where the click came from originally. So what ad it came from, what site it came from, and we'll get into more of this when I talk specifically about tracking, which is probably going to be in the next couple webinars here. But this is basically essential for optimizing a campaign. So that's how these networks work. It's a little bit different. On, you know, AdSonar or Pulse, you could pick a site oftentimes, or you could pick a channel. With these, I don't believe you can pick either at this point. I've tried ad side myself. I have done a little bit of traffic. One of the things that's cool about ad side is that it's very new, so not a lot of people know about this traffic source. And another thing is that it was started by one of the founders of AdSide was one of the previous founders of AdSonar. So these guys actually they obviously know what they're doing. They've already built up a successful ad network in the past, and so it looks like they're kind of trying to do it again with AdSide. And right now it's pretty new, so not too many people know about it. And so I'd recommend at least checking it out and doing some tests on there. Right now we don't have ad side data and we don't have ad blade data, but just hold tight, and I expect it will cover these networks in the not too distant future, but I can't give you a time on that. But what I would recommend you do with these networks, they're, like I said, they're very similar to Pulse, very similar to AdSonar. So look at what's working there, and then you can take something that's working there and go experiment with it on ad side. I mean, you may find that there's less competition on ad side because it's a new network. So check it out. Also very easy to sign up. It's very easy to get started there. Let's see. Again, these are very affiliate friendly. It's mostly affiliates running on these ad networks. Expensive clicks, this is probably going to be clicks in the 50 cents and up range as well. So you need to have the offer dialed in, and make sure you have a landing page that's converting or an offer that's really converting well. And again, there's no real rules on these networks either in terms of what you can promote. Here's a good question. Do they do the optimization automatically, or do you have to ask them? That's a good question. I know on ad side, I actually had an ad rep or an account rep that was working with me. I don't know if this is something that they will keep up, but because it's new right now anyway. Basically, I was talking with this guy, over email quite a bit, and he was telling me, what he thought would work better than what I was doing and that sort of thing. They will optimize it, or you can probably give them some feedback on optimizing it. A lot of these networks that will tell you that they run run of network stuff and they'll optimize for you. To me, I haven't done a lot of traffic with these sorts of networks because I don't really like the idea of somebody else optimizing my campaign, and just doesn't feel like I have much control over the whole thing. And so I prefer to run other traffic sources, but I know that there's plenty of people that have been very successful running these sorts of traffic. So I hope that answers that. All right, a little bit about direct site buys. Here's kind of some things how to think about direct site buys and what's good and bad about them. On a per site spend per day, you could do anywhere from $5 even down to less than that. I mean, you could do $1, $2, $3 a day on some very low traffic sites, to upwards of $1,000 a day on a single site. If you're buying ad space on a site that's maybe in the top 1,000 or top 2,000 sites by traffic, it's not that hard to spend $1,000 a day on a single website. So there's kind of a wide range here of what's available by purchasing directly from a site. It's one of the most high quality traffic sources if it's properly targeted, because you're not running keyword ad groups on Google, and some sites are working good for you and others are not working good for you. It's a single website, you've selected it, and so all the traffic is coming from, exactly where it's coming from. And you can even get more targeted than just the run of site traffic. So I mentioned run of network before. The acronym ROS stands for run of site, and that means that your ad is going to run anywhere on the site. So on any page on the site, your ad could show. Or you could do something like section targeting on some sites that may have that available. So that would be like targeting one section of a website. Like if it's a news site, maybe there's a you know, health section of that news site, or maybe there's a money section of that news site, and so you could potentially target your ads by section as well. So this can be very high quality traffic, you know, because you're basically picking all the targets that you want specifically. Again, this is pretty easy for affiliates in terms. I mean, the biggest thing is there's just no permanent bans. I mean, nobody is gonna you know, write you off forever as an affiliate if you try to, you know, ask them to run something. You know, basically a lot of times you can make changes if the site doesn't like what you're trying to run. They'll tell you. You can ask them, you know, what do you not like about the offer? What do you not like about the banner? And maybe you can make a small change and then get that to run. In fact, I just did that with a site last month where, you know, I tried to run a banner. They didn't like the exact banner that I was running, and I made a small change after I asked them exactly what the problem was they had with the banner. I made a change in the banner, so they ended up running the banner, and it still converts well, and so everybody's happy. You know, this is the kind of thing that's impossible to do with Google, basically. I mean, they do not tell you, they don't give you input, they don't try to work with you to, you know, figure out how to get your stuff to run. They just tell you it's not going to run. So that's one of the things that's cool about doing this sort of thing. Let's see. It's, you know, it's basically very easy to get traffic. I mean, you can go buy traffic without too much difficulty, and you'll definitely get it. It can be hard to scale though, and it can be hard to buy profitably. You know, so just because you can buy traffic doesn't mean it's going to be profitable. But it's easy to actually get the traffic, whereas on something like MSN, sometimes it's just difficult to figure out, you know, how their system works to where it'll actually give you, you know, more traffic. And when I say it can be hard to scale, I just mean that it's very labor intensive. So there's a lot of back and forth with site owners, a lot of back and forth with ad sales representatives for the site. So it's not a self-service type thing where you can access hundreds of sites at once like these other ad networks. Everything is one-on-one, and so that's not it's not super scalable. There's just a lot of overhead involved with every transaction, so it's just something to be aware of. One of the good things about that, though, is that a lot of people don't want to do it, and so, you know, I think there's an opportunity there for people that are willing to actually put in the effort required. You can run anything that's standard banner sizes typically. Well, the site has to have that banner size available, so you can, you know, go to the site and see what banners they have running, and you get an idea of what banner sizes that you could potentially run. One of the other things that's good about this sort of traffic source is that it's very relationship based, and what I mean by that is that you develop a relationship with the person you're buying the traffic from, whether it's the site owner, whether it's the advertising representative for the site. You know, they start working with you, they get to know you a little bit, and it's the kind of thing where, you know, they would probably just assume keep working with you if they enjoy working with you, then try to deal with a bunch of other, you know, people separately. So, you know, if you're able to cultivate a good relationship, you know, over time, then this can be actually an advantage for you to continue going on and buying traffic from them. And, you know, also I forgot to kind of mention it here, but everything's negotiable with these sorts of site buys. So this is also something you don't see with the ad networks, where you're just bidding for traffic and you're counting on some algorithm to place your ads or not. You know, you're dealing with people when you do these buys, and everything's negotiable. You know, they have certain needs that they need met, but aside from those needs, you may be able to negotiate all sorts of other, you know, things with the deal. Not even just price isn't the only consideration. You know, you can get credit oftentimes with these sites if you're set up to do that well from the beginning. We're going to get into some of this in more detail later, but I'm just telling you some of the advantages with a direct site buy. So I'll go into, you know, how you would get credit or why sites would give you credit later. And like I said, less competition because I think there's more work with this sort of thing. So here's the negatives. You know, it can be difficult to test without an ad server. So if you're just going and doing a direct site buy from somebody that has a smaller site, probably what they're going to tell you is that they want to just place your banner up. They're going to edit the source code of their page and just put your banner in there, and they'll probably leave it up for a month, and then they take it down when the month is up, that sort of thing. Well, that's very difficult to test because you know, you can't switch out banners easily, you know, and you can't easily you just can't basically optimize easily in real time. So that can be a little bit difficult. You can try to convince them to use some sort of code that will kind of switch your banners out. There's an ad server called OpenX. There's other ad servers, but a lot of the smaller sites, they're not really going to be even interested in doing that. They don't really understand how that sort of thing works, and so you know, there's just a little bit of a difficult problem here with testing. It's doable. You can still do it, but again, it's harder to scale with this sort of thing when you don't have a good way to switch ads out, which is very easy to do with most of these, well, all of these ad networks. All right, the cost of clicks can range from anywhere from really cheap to very expensive. And what I mean by this is kind of in general, when you're not buying on a cost per click basis, strange things can happen with the price of your clicks. I mean, I've bought clicks on a CPM basis, so I was buying on an impression basis, and the place where they were putting my banner was in such a horrible position at the bottom of a really long page that basically I ended up, before I caught it and turned it off, I ended up spending probably 70 or 80 bucks, and I was paying like $35 a click because essentially nobody was seeing the banner ever. The page was loading and the impressions were counting. So anyway, there's no possible way you're going to make money paying $35 a click. But then again, if you get a good placement on a site and you negotiate the right deals, then you can get very cheap clicks. 10 cents a click, not too hard to get actually. Like I mentioned before, a lot of work, can be a lot of email back and forth. If you get into larger buys, you may need to use an ad server. Either you have to get your own, or you can use the site's ad server if they have something set up. Just for people that don't understand what an ad server is just, it's software that helps you serve ads and change the ads out. This is like built into an ad network. This is part of what an ad network is an ad server. So when you set up 4 ads in Google, like I recommend, so that those ads are rotated and you're testing those ads, their ad server is serving those ads. They're rotating them naturally, and it's allowing you to get data on which ads are getting the clicks, that sort of thing. So when you're not running on an ad network, you need something, or it's possible to use software specifically designed for that, to help you to test those ads and to do that serving for you. Let's see. Can you talk about how much you generally spend? Like, do you start with 50 to 100 a day until you see 100 to 300 clicks to optimize? How long does this take? I mean, it's just all different. It's hard for me to say. It's just all very different. I mean, like today, I may start with I may sign an IO that's $5,000 or $15,000. Or I may start with $500 if I'm not sure of the site. But when I was starting a couple years ago and doing direct site buys, I was I was spending just a few $100 a month, and I would start by buying a few $100 a month banner spots. So it's just all different. It depends on what your budget is. It depends on how much knowledge you have already about the market. So sometimes when I go into doing a banner buy, I may already have a lot of data on the market. I've spent millions of dollars on Google in the diet market, so I already have quite a bit of data that I can use to help me go and buy banner buys. So I may be a little more aggressive than somebody who doesn't have that data. So you just kind of, I would say start small. That's that's my recommendation. Start small and work up from there. All right, let's see. A couple more considerations about direct site buys. This is something that's kind of interesting, and you may not really, it's not immediately obvious, I think, so I wanted to make sure I mention it. When you're doing direct site buys, you're going to be doing things like trying to figure out how much traffic that site has to it. So you're going to be looking at things like Compete, Alexa. You may be able to get the site owner to give you access to their Google Analytics, which would give you the exact figures for how much traffic they're getting. But the thing is, this traffic isn't all the same. So there are sites out there, there are a lot of sites that get mostly new traffic. And what I mean by new traffic is that the traffic that comes to that site on a daily basis tends to be from sources that are new visitors to the site. So imagine a site that has a very wide footprint in the natural search results. So it's getting broad natural search engine traffic from just all sorts of random keyword searches that different people every day are typing in, because the same person that typed in a keyword search today typically isn't going to type that same search in next week, for the most part. So a site that ranks for a lot of terms naturally like this will get a lot of kind of fresh traffic into the site all the time. And those sites tend to perform better long term. So if you're putting up an ad on that site, and it stays up a month, chances are that most of the people that come back in that second month and see your banner, they're not going to be the people that have already seen your banner, just because it's from new traffic sources. The other way that some sites have really fresh traffic is that there are a lot of sites that buy advertising. So you'll see, even in AdBeat, some of the sites that are actually listed as publishers are also listed as advertisers, because they're sending they're buying advertising traffic on Google's content network, and they're sending it to their site. So if you find a site that does a lot of that, it has the same effect as kind of a broad search engine result placement site, because all that traffic is just coming randomly from all over the place. So those are some things to consider. That's what'll get kind of fresh traffic to a site. Those tend to perform well. You have to be careful with sites that have a loyal repeat user base, because initially the ads may perform really well, but the creatives will burn out quickly because it's the same people that are coming back to that site. So if somebody, if you figure out a site has 50,000 unique visitors a month, and it's one of these sites that has a bunch of repeat visitors, that traffic is going to perform very differently the second month than one of these sites like up top that have the same 50,000 uniques a month, but those uniques are different uniques in the next month. So I hope that makes sense. It's something you need to be aware of, because you'll definitely see things change in terms of your conversion for sites that have a lot of repeat visitors. All right, that's what I have to cover today. So I'll answer some questions here if you guys have any. What's an example of a site that serves ad-side ads? I can't remember right now. Actually, I don't have any off the top of my head. Actually, check healthcastle.com. I think that they may serve ad-side ads. But you can find out pretty easy by just signing up and sending them an email. Ask them, give me some examples of where your ads show up. They have some unique ad units. AdSide does. So they have some strange, some just kind of unique ad units that are a little bit different than what you normally see. They have one that pops up from the bottom of the screen. So just check it out and you'll see. So I have a CTR and CPM calculator formula. It's probably pretty easy to find. I'll look for a link and I'll try to post a link in the forum. What about buy-sell ads? Yeah, I mean buy-sell ads. I haven't bought from buy-sell ads. So buy-sell ads. What I'll tell you about buy-sell ads, you can see this by just looking at AdBeat. It's a very specific type of ad network. So the publishers that they target are kind of in the creative space, in the design and very tech savvy kind of visitors would be on these sites. I mean, you can just look at the sites and see what kind of sites that make up their network. So it's kind of, in a way, it's a niche ad network where they've really stuck to these this certain type of site that they hit really well, that demographic. Because of that, you have to be aware of that. I mean, it's not gonna, the traffic from buy-sell ads is going to be very different than, you know, from Google or something that is hitting a broad, you know, just a very broad list of sites across the internet. With that said, if you look at buy-sell ads, I'm pretty sure you'll see that there are some people promoting some stuff on buy-sell ads as affiliates. I haven't looked very closely lately, but I think there's some people making something work. I can't talk to any sort of conversion percentages or any of that. I mean, all that depends on the offer. Depends on what your offer is. So what networks do I tend to advertise in the most? I've used almost all of these networks that I've just mentioned. I haven't used AdBlade. So I mean, the reason why I'm covering these networks is because these are the networks I know the most about. There's a bunch of other networks out there. Some of them I've tried, but I don't know as much about a lot of the other networks. I'll get a resource list together and list some other networks, but these are the ones that I know the most about, and these are the ones that I think have potential for anybody to, you know, there are people making money on these ad networks. That's what I have to say. I'll mention I've tried AdBright. I've spent probably $500 a few different times on AdBright, and I have never been able to have success on AdBright. But if you look at what's running on AdBright, you'll see it's a bunch of business opportunity stuff, and so it may be that's not my market. I've never played in that market at all. It may be that if you do you know, that sort of affiliate offer on AdBright, maybe you know, you could have some success there. Can you start small on all these ad networks? Yes. I believe everything we just covered is self-serve. You can, you know, start with $5 a day, $10 a day, whatever. Outside of Google, which network have I found the most profitable? I've done well on MSN. But just because you guys have to understand that you can't just take you can't say this is what Mike's done, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I mean, because that's what works. That's not. I don't want to give you the idea that just because I've had success on Google and I've had success on MSN that's where you should necessarily you know, focus on completely. There are people that are having success on every single one of these networks that I just covered, and you can see what they're doing in AdBeat. So I'd recommend you take a look at what's going on. Let's see. Yeah, 24/7 Real Media is another ad network like ValueClick or like Tribal Fusion. They're going to be it's a blind network, so you're going to have to just throw a bunch of cash out there and then optimize based on the pixel. May require an IO to run on them. I don't think that's a self-serve network, so you're gonna have to get an account representative, and it's going to be a little more involved than some of these networks that I just covered. How would one go about creating an advertorial news site of your own? You would look at what's working, and you would, if you don't have the skills to do that, which I guess you don't if you're asking this question, you would hire somebody to create it. So we're definitely going to talk about how to hire people to do things like this. Real quickly, I mean, if you want to get a head start, I can tell you, you can go to Elance, go to Odesk, go to any number of these outsourcing sites, and you can find people to do work on a per project basis. And somebody else is posting here that there are some people, you know, are in the business of selling landing pages, and so you may find there's a recommendation here to check out LP Designer. they may have kind of pre-made advertorial landing pages that you can just purchase. So there's a number of ways you can go to do that, and it just depends on what you want to do. What do I think when an advertiser has only a spike or two in the timeline and then drops off? So this is talking about ad beat, trend line charts. I think one of two things happened. The ad network killed the campaign because it wasn't compliant with whatever their terms of service were. Or probably more likely, the campaign did not work. It's a failed test. So that's typically what a failed test is going to look like. You're going to see traffic for a few days, maybe a week at the most, and then it's going to go away. Are these fake news sites legal? They don't seem ethical. I don't really know if they're legal. I mean, you're gonna have to, consult an attorney. I think it's a gray area. Let me say that it's not really clear if they're legal, how legal they are, whatever. But it's not my area of expertise. Whether they're ethical or not, I mean, that's kind of your call. If you think they're ethical, then go ahead and run them. If you don't think they're ethical, don't run them. People have a different idea of ethics as well, so it's hard to say. What would be a typical click-through rate on banner ads? A banner ad click-through rate can typical. The word typical to me is like average. It's bad. I mean, it's probably 0.1, 0.2%, something like that. A good click-through rate on a banner is 1%, and a great click-through rate on a banner is maybe 1.5%. So, would a niche like colon cleanse be too specific for AdBright? I'm not sure I totally understand this question. I would look at what's running already and make a decision. Oh, is that too niche for AdBeat? Like for AdBeat to pick up the ads? No, I wouldn't. That's not too niche. That's broad. So if you're not finding much, it means that that's probably not a very popular offer right now. Or it's not running at all on the network. I mean, if you try to search for colon on Google, you're not going to find a whole lot of colon cleanse offers running because you would have 2 years ago or a year and a half ago or something, but not right now. My experience, I'm not really going to talk about Facebook advertising in this course. Mainly just because it's not really my area of expertise. I've played around with it a little bit. It's very tricky. The ads burn out quickly. It's a kind of a beast all unto itself. I mean, there's a ton of traffic on Facebook. There's a lot of people making a lot of money with Facebook, but it's a kind of a separate sort of type of advertising. Then I know it seems kind of related, but it's actually definitely has some pretty unique things about it that make it quite different from some of these other types of contextual networks that we're talking about. Just reading through these questions here. What's my conclusion when researching certain types of offers in AdBeat and you can't find them being promoted? I mean, if you're trying to go too niche, you may not find it. Right now, we tend to pick up campaigns that are spending maybe $25 to $50 a day. So if it's very, very highly niche, you may not find it. But that should improve as we scale up, as we continue to scale up. But mostly if you can't find an offer running in AdBeat, it means that it's probably not doing very well. I mean, it may not be allowed on the network you're searching. There's, those are kind of the main reasons. Either it's not doing well and people have tried it and it's not working, or it's not allowed on the network, or it's highly niche and we're not able to quite pick it up yet. All right. So let's see. Any tips on avoiding being banned on Google? Like no fake news. Yeah, guys, we're going to get into a lot more detailed talk about Google very soon, probably the next 1 or 2 webinars here. So I'll go into detail about Google, and I have some tips on how to deal with Google. So let's hold off for that. Certainly no fake news sites, no brand names. Yeah, I mean, none of the stuff that seems, I mean, basically look, like I said, like look at what you see running on Google. You're not going to see those fake news sites running. How do you get tens of thousands of keywords? You're going to use software to help you do that, something like Keyword Rockstar or some custom script. You can do it by hand through the Google keyword tool. Google has a free keyword tool. If you just search in Google for Google keyword tool external, you'll get a link that'll take you to their keyword tool, and you can get keywords for free from there. But to get 10,000, you're going to want some sort of software to help you do that. So we'll get into more of that later when we talk specifically about Google. Let's see. Here's a good question. I'm selling my own product on ClickBank. Should I run it through PayPal instead for Google since they don't like affiliates? Yes. Definitely do not run it through ClickBank on Google. I think I've showed you guys there's that product maxworkouts.com running right now on Google. It's an info product in the fitness niche, and it's running just fine on Google, and it has been for quite a while now. And the only real difference with that product and a lot of the products that Google has will not allow to run anymore is that it's not run through ClickBank as a payment processor. So look at what they're doing, and I would do something like that. Do you need that many keywords on other traffic sources other than Google? On something like MSN, yeah, you would want to run a lot because they're heavily keyword based. On these other networks, no, they're not. They're typically not keyword based ad placements. You're bidding on channels, you're bidding on sites, or you're just bidding, and it's run of network traffic. And of course, with the direct site buy, keywords have nothing to do with it also. So it's mainly Google and MSN at this point that keywords are important for. Can I repeat what I just said about running well on Google, not using ClickBank? Yeah, if you own the offer, if you're creating an offer yourself, and you're planning on promoting your own offer that you own, say an info product, for instance, and you want to run it on Google, you're going to learn a ton of stuff in this training that would help you to run it on Google. However, if you run it through ClickBank, you're probably going to have problems running it on Google. Right now, Google seems to just have completely decided that they don't like ClickBank products at all. I haven't done a thorough search, but certainly in the diet market, they don't allow any ClickBank, and it kind of looks to me like they've cleaned out a lot of other ClickBank offers in other markets. So if you wanted to run something that was similar to a ClickBank offer, just an info product, but you don't run the payment processing through ClickBank, you have a decent chance, I think, of running it on Google. Look at what the advertisers are on Google. Look at closecombattraining.com. Look at maxworkouts.com. Just scan those top 1,000 advertisers and just see what's running there, and you'll see that there are people running products just fine on Google that are very similar to kind of different ClickBank info products, but they're not doing ClickBank payment processing. Maybe even better if you use Google as a payment processor. That's probably a good idea. Yeah, haven't thought of that. That's not a bad idea. Google's being studied for antitrust violations in Europe. Yeah, they should be, is my opinion. There's concerns about how they do their businesses. I agree. All right. I think that's it, guys. We're over an hour, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I think we answered most of the questions here. So there's another webinar coming up Wednesday, and I'll get a schedule out for one more here. $500,000 copywriting case study. We're going to go over that in a webinar soon. I'm going to do it by next week sometime. We'll go over that. So we're going to do it in a live format so people can ask questions just like this. How many webinars do I plan on having? Let's see. I don't know, because I mean, guys, I'm going to give you at least, at the minimum, I'm going to cover the training that I had listed in the package, on the webinar, but I'm going to cover a lot more training than that. So I don't really know how many webinars we're going to end up with, but I mean, I would think a minimum of like 12. So minimum. And I'll probably have other training as well that I may post, just short videos. All right, so that's it. Thank you everybody for attending, and try to attend the next webinar on Wednesday. Thanks.